Arsenal will find out the fate of their Premier League opening and run-in today as the fixtures are revealed. We've got transfer news to discuss and plenty more to talk about. Today is, of course, as always at 8 a.m, the Arsenal Transfer Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time, bringing you all the latest Arsenal transfer news. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. Thank you as always for joining me and making this a part of your morning routines. It is incredibly appreciated, and I hope you've had a fantastic start to your week and that your weekend was good. If you weren't joining us yesterday, welcome back. And if you could be ever so kind to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show, that would also be greatly appreciated. Today is going to be a shorter show. It is, of course, Premier League fixture today, fixtures release day, which means I'm very busy and got lots of work to do, and I've already started some stuff and kind of jumping on to do the show, and with permission, of course, it's worth saying. So thank you for that. I will say that, of course, when we get to the part about the Premier League news, to be very open and clear for those listening on catch up, you'll all know them probably by now. In fact, I'm pretty sure most of you will know what the fixtures are right now anyway, because they've been leaked. Now, as a journalist, I am bound by the 9 a.m. embargo that exists. So I'm going to have to be very cautious and coy about how I talk about it. It's not clever or fun to break embargoes. It happens. It really does mess things up. But, you know, I'm going to be as candid as I can. So just understand and appreciate why I won't be doing any specific references. And if you're listening on catch up knowing all the fixtures, I know them. I can't actually talk about them until 9, but these shows are at 8, so it is what it is. You'll see as and when we get to them. Let's go through today's stories, though. We start with yesterday's European Championship action, in which William Saliba, of course, kicked off the tournament with a start for France, which is great. We wanted him to start for France, and he has. He started alongside Deo Upamecano in a 1-0 win over Austria. Very similar to England's game. Took the lead, and then, of course, just kind of kept the lead. Kylian Mbappe breaking his nose in that game. It will be interesting to see how that impacts his and France's tournament for the rest of the European Championships as well. So that's really something, and probably one of the biggest stories so far of the European Championships. The other games included a defeat for Leandro Trossard and Belgium in very shocking fashion against Slovakia. Romelu Lukaku. Is there a more unfortunate footballer than Romelu Lukaku, who had 2 goals ruled out for offside? The first, of course, just hilarious, being offside, tapping in that goal. The second one, of course, was a very contentious handball decision. Whether or not you think it's handball, the current the current situation is that is handball. That's deemed handball, and seemingly is what they want to see as handball, but it's incredibly frustrating. We can't disagree too much with the rules of how they're implemented, because by the rules it's handball, but in my opinion that rule is ridiculous. So the decision's not harsh, the decision is not incorrect, the decision is correct by the rules, but the rules are wrong, and the handball rule is absolutely silly. So, and what I also hate is that they watch these things in slow motion. It's in these moments you should watch them at game speed and then decide whether or not, because no one has the ability to slow down time in real time. Any movements that are made needs to be watched in real time. I think the slow motion has really had such a detrimental and damaging impact on the game. And then one of the results, I think, again, of the tournament, Romania 3, Ukraine 0. Fantastic game and brilliant goal from Nikolai Stanchu. Obviously a mistake from Ukraine leading up to that goal, but a brilliant goal. Marin, of course, as well, with another fantastic finish, although Lunin coming into quite a bit of scrutiny for his performances as Ukraine's goalkeeper. Zinchenko and co opening their campaign very poorly and leaving them in a lot of bother, a lot of trouble for their games. Although that said, with Slovakia beating Belgium, Ukraine will be probably relatively happy that they have a good chance of qualifying if they win their next 2 games. But it could be a very interesting Group E. Today's fixtures, just 2, a 5 o'clock kickoff, Turkey against Georgia. Very much looking forward to seeing Georgia get stuck in to the Euros, and Portugal against Czechia as well is the late kickoff. Cristiano Ronaldo kicking off his campaign in that round of fixtures as well. Now, moving forwards and into Arsenal-specific news, Karl Hein, according to James McNicholas of The Athletic, just broke this story as an exclusive. Is set to sign a new deal at Arsenal. However, there is an expectation that the Estonian international will indeed go out on loan, that he has been convinced to stay at the club. I thought he would leave, just not in terms of any information, just I thought he would leave from kind of an analytical or kind of judgmental standpoint. I thought he probably should leave from his own sake to get more minutes. But if he's going on loan, I suppose that makes plenty of sense. It eases somewhat, as James describes, the burden of the goalkeeper position. But if he's going to go out on loan, it probably doesn't change too much for Arsenal either. But Karl Hein staying is a good or bad thing. Probably a good thing for Arsenal, but maybe not necessarily as good for him, as his future remains somewhat uncertain as to how he gets on, but hopefully he does really, really well whilst on loan. He has gone on loan before, but it was ended early in an injury. I believe it was, I think it was Reading that Karl Hein went to. He spent time on loan. I'll just have a quick check on that. It was Reading. He spent time on loan at Reading, but an injury ended that pretty quickly. Now, Arsenal had been linked to Barcelona youngster Mikayil Faye, who is a defender, left centre-half / left back. However, there is expectations now that Porto seemingly will be making an offer to try and sign the young Barcelona defender. Arsenal's interest has not seemingly progressed anything more than what we talked about on a previous show a week or so ago. And if Arsenal are to miss out on the player, it seems that a low offer from Porto may indeed be what it takes to bring him to the Portuguese league. So another player that's been linked to Arsenal seemingly going elsewhere. The headline transfer line comes from Italian sources, so get your salt shakers out. According to Italian journalist Ciro Venerato, who is relayed to Area Napoli, claims that Arsenal are looking to get Napoli star Victor Osimhen at a reduced price. We know that his release clause is around £110 million, and Napoli want that full fee paid. However, there could be some changes to that. The journalist said Arsenal will now try with the Nigerian, but not by paying the onerous amount of the clause, but a lower sum instead. Napoli will have to evaluate the pros and cons. I don't know how realistic or how legitimate these claims are really. I've heard nothing on Osimhen, to be honest, prior to my holiday. I'm getting back into the swing of things this week, so maybe that will change, but I can't see Arsenal spending the money it would take to get Osimhen. I really, really can't. There's been suggestions of £75 million going around social media today and yesterday. I'd be very, very surprised if Arsenal did this. It's never really been something talked up too much on kind of our side of things here on the England journalism sphere, but it's seemingly very much peppering the Italian sources in the last 24 hours. So let's wait and see what happens with Victor Osimhen, shall we? Now, Arsenal's Premier League fixtures, as I mentioned at the start of the show, and for those listening will catch up wondering why I'm not going to mention any specific names or dates, and despite the fact that plenty of people in my live chat box already are talking about what fixtures Arsenal have got, I can't, because I am, as a journalist, bound by the 9 a.m. embargo. So just for your explanation, just for your peace of mind as to why I'm not mentioning any specific fixtures, you all know what they are. I know what they are. Everyone on social media now knows what they are, because they are all being leaked. As I mentioned at the start of the show, it's not fun or clever to break an embargo. It's quite a serious thing. But it happens and usually does happen when it comes to Premier League fixtures. What I will say is that, just in vague terms, tough start, good running, I think, even though maybe the right at the end it gets a bit tricky. But I'd say tough start, decent running is what I would say very vaguely about them. But I can't mention any specific dates or fixtures because, as I say, the embargo is in place for me and other journalists to adhere to. But we'll do more talking about the fixtures tomorrow. You will know what they are. Let us know your thoughts on them in the comment section down below, and I look forward to seeing your thoughts on them. But yes, that is the situation. Right, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, we're going to jump into the chat box. I'm going to try and do it without breaking breaking this embargo as much as I can. Okay, Carl says Gyökeres is a better deal than Victor Osimhen. And so, of course, when it comes to strikers, when it comes to the idea of what Arsenal should go for, the amount of money is key. And players like Gyökeres, players like Osimhen, are players that are going to cost you a lot of money. There are also suggestions that, of course, Gyökeres could indeed be going under something of a knee procedure. I've seen some people suggesting. I don't necessarily know how realistic that is. These reports came out at the end of May that were claiming that that Gyökeres could have had something of an operation on his knee, but I don't know how long that is meant to keep him out for, if indeed it is accurate. Suggestions were like 5 to 6 weeks at the end of May, so it could even be that he's back at the start of the season, but who knows what's going on there. But I really don't see Arsenal spending huge money on a centre forward this window. And when I say huge money, I didn't mean the 55 million release clause for Sesko as it stood at the time. So yeah, very difficult. Troy says Onana was awful yesterday, Tom, and they say I would rather sign Fofana. As I've mentioned on a number of occasions, Onana has never been the player for me personally that I'd like to see Arsenal go for. I think we need someone who is more progressive, more technically adept, and I just don't necessarily think that Onana fits the scope of Arsenal's midfield options. Zahid says Italian sources are shoddy, but I don't think the local journals are getting anything from Arsenal, so I really don't know who to believe. What do you think? I mean, as someone who has got my contacts at the club, I have been told certain things about obviously Arsenal striker candidates. I was told that Sesko was indeed on the list of players that Arsenal were looking at. Obviously, he's now signed a brand new deal with RB Leipzig, so there isn't an expectation, of course, that is going to happen this summer. But others did include Victor Gyökeres rather than Victor Osimhen. I didn't ask specifically about Osimhen, but he's obviously a player that we know that Arsenal have had an interest in for quite some time. But the feeling has always been that unless Arsenal make significant sales, that we aren't expecting a huge Declan Rice type deal, which of course Osimhen would be. Mark says, Tom, is there a good list of the Arsenal prospects being broken down by position? I've been keeping my own list of players to watch at each position, but I'd like to see who else we're tracking. In terms of like all the players that have been linked to the club, I don't know if there's like a list of all of them that have been linked so far. I've done a few pieces on like the dream windows and players that have, of course, been linked as well. But you can get and watch our dream window if you want to watch back our series from the past week where we discussed with plenty of familiar faces our dream picks for the summer. Jason says, Tom, did you get your hands on a bottle of the Saka sauce from Nando's that they were giving away? No, I didn't. And I tried. It was my day off yesterday. I went to the gym, and on the way back from the gym, I went to the Nando's at 3:25 because it was said that you would be able to grab your own free bottle of Saka sauce from Nando's between 3:30 and 4:30. And at 3:25, 5 minutes before it was meant to start, it was all sold out, all gone. People had turned up, taken them off the shelves of the Nando's that I had gone to. I couldn't then go to another one because I obviously knew that by that time they would have been gone. But I was fuming, absolutely fuming to miss out on my bottle of Saka sauce because I only had it the one time and I really enjoyed it. And it's a shame that it's being discontinued. Maybe it'll come back one day, but very sad. Very sad indeed that I missed out on it. Clive says, good spot with Teo Hernandez is his suggestion, of course, for a left back. I'd love to see Teo Hernandez, of course, at Arsenal, but realistically, I just don't see that being one Arsenal would be able to pull off during this window. LE says, any update on Mbappe's nose situation? He's said to have undergone or will undergo surgery in Germany on his nose. So how long that keeps him out of action, if at all, remains to be seen. Vanajuti says, if the price, which is being reported, is correct for Tammy Abraham at 26 million, could Arteta get his career back on track after his injury? Personally, him and Sancho for just over a combined 60 million could be a bit of a bargain I think that Tammy Abraham, if he was to come to Arsenal, would be one of those classic signings where the Arsenal fan base would lose their minds. I know Chelsea fans actually rate him relatively highly and actually have been talking about maybe even bringing him back to the club during this summer window. But I know if Tammy Abraham was indeed the player that Arsenal went for, there would be meltdown. I'm not necessarily wildly keen on it. I just think that the striker position is not one that I'm willing to have a project in necessarily. Unless the only project I'd really be interested in is Marcus Rashford. Other than that, I'm just not really keen on a project signing for the centre forward position. And when I say project, I mean like revitalising the career of a player. Ben says, did you watch Bakayoko's performance in that loss? He looked like a decent backup, which is what we need. And he is. That is what we need. Not necessarily a backup, but a competitive option to the highest degree. You're never going to get anything that isn't a backup to Saka, because Saka's of a level where any player is really going to be a backup. But you want a competitive option, and I do like Bakayoko. I'd be curious to see how much PSV would want for him. Callum says, hi, Tom. Aussie Gooner here. Long-time listener, but first opportunity taken to pose a question. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your listenership, Callum. Tough one here. Saka, Ødegaard, and Rice. Sell one, keep two. Who are you selling? Oh, my goodness. Sell one, keep two. Keep two. Sell one, keep two. That's so hard. Why would you ask me that? Of all the questions to jump in with to start the day and to start your career as a TGT question asker, keep two, sell one. I guess you have to ask the question, who is the most replaceable? I have a feeling that most people would say sell Ødegaard, but Ødegaard's been our player of the season the last 2 seasons. Is it weird that I'm leaning towards selling? No, I'm not going to say. I can't. Not a fair question, says Tom. No answer, says Tony. Don't answer, says Loga. Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to just ignore your question, Callum. I know it's harsh, but I just don't want to ask it. I just don't want to answer the question. Patrick says Gyökeres had a knee procedure after the season. Nothing big though, according to Swedish papers. So there you go. Some clarity on that one. Reece says, do you think we need a Ramsey type player? I think it would suit Havertz a lot. Ironically, the Ramsey role is something that Havertz was started out at the start of the season. We actually got the best of him by moving away from that attacking midfield position. Mark says, any update on the negotiations between Bayern and Alphonso Davies? And what do you think of our chances to prize him away from Bayern? I don't think there is much hope of that. I think that Real Madrid will eventually get their man, would be my prediction. I think Real Madrid will eventually get Alphonso Davies. It just seems like a bit of a prolonged saga right now. Chris says, Tom, don't worry about the Saka sauce. Someone from Arsenal got loads of bottles and will be selling them in a couple of months with a new training kit launch. I do love it when anything Arsenal launches gets like bad press. We talked about the dog toy, which I actually still need to order. I'm going to order that today. Actually, I think I'll be ordering my Win the Dog toy if any are indeed still available. Shall I have a quick look? Is Win the Dog available still? Scrolling down the Arsenal page. If I do a little search and type in Win, let's see if Win. Yes, Win the Dog still available. Love that. Going to get my Win the Dog because, you know, I'm a normal human being that's not upset by soft toys. And the new Arsenal training kit has also launched today or yesterday. You can get the new one, which is like a dark blue with a light blue trim, and then the reverse of that with a light blue type shirt with the dark blue trims. Quite nice. Quite like the colouring of it. I think it works quite nicely. It's a colour scheme I think we've seen similar of before. So yeah, but it's got the new Shoba Realty sponsorship and accents on it, I think, as well. Owen says, would you prefer going for a young number 2 goalkeeper or a 30-plus veteran? There is obviously the other option, which is buying a similar, a mid-20s goalkeeper as well, which is also something we could do. I think I lean towards the veteran option. I just have been, but we need to make sure. I look at, Stefan Ortega, and I just think that deal has been such a success for Man City, and why couldn't we replicate that type of deal for Arsenal? Paul says it's like asking to pick between your 3 kids. You just don't do it. And I think I'm going to take the I'm going to take my right to silence and go with that. Lewis says, "What's the best football show you've ever watched? Like a TV series, in terms of like what, like a dedicated like bio doc type thing, or a documentary series like the All or Nothing." I really enjoyed the Manchester City All or Nothing series. I enjoyed it more than the Arsenal one. Maybe it's because of obviously the emotional attachment to the Arsenal one and how that season ended was so painful that it's kind of taken it away from me. I did enjoy the Manchester City one. I didn't enjoy the Tottenham one. Maybe again that's just an emotional thing. But I did enjoy the Man City All or Nothing series. The way it was produced, put together, I thought it was excellent. Other footballing series that I've watched that I enjoyed, there's not loads out there really that I've really tuned in for. I tell you what, I say this all the time. Like when I'm off, when I'm not working, when I'm not on the channel, when I'm not on social media, whatever, I really try and detach as much as I can from football because it takes. Oh, Ted Lasso's a great shout as well. I don't know how I forgot that. That is probably my favorite. But when I am outside of football, I really try and detach and do other things because football takes up such a huge portion of my life that, you know, dedicating much more time into it sometimes I feel like can overwhelm me with football. So I do try and detach myself from football as much as I can when I'm not working. Olawale says, any updates on Nico Williams? Not at the moment. Certainly not been something that we've seen too much of a difference in. Right. We're going to end the show there. I said it was going to be more of a condensed episode today, and it has been slightly. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in and listening. Really appreciate your time. I hope you have a fantastic day. Let us know your thoughts on the fixtures when you learn of them, and put your thoughts on them down in the comment section below. We'll talk about them in a lot more detail as I can and I'm able to tomorrow, as well as plenty of more news and any updates on from the Euros and anything going on there as well. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy yourselves. I know it's Tuesday, but you can make it. And as always, up the Arsenal.